Good morning.
Oh, wait a minute, I need one of those back if there's an extra. Did you get one? Yeah, thank you. It's 8:01, so I will at this time call to order the County Council meeting of Tuesday, October 8th, 2019 to order, and we will start the meeting today by honoring our country with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Once in a while, we deviate from the agenda as presented to us and kind of have made a habit of doing that without actually following the official rules of doing that. And since we're probably going to deviate quite a bit today rather than just one item or person, I would ask council at this time for a motion to deviate from the agenda as presented.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll go to a vote. All those in favor, please respond by raising your right hand. And those opposed, the same, and it passed unanimously with all board members present. John Myers, please.
Thank you. My name is John Myers. I'm president of the Whitley County Economic Development Corporation. Here today to ask for your consideration of a tax abatement on behalf of Red Star Contract Manufacturing, which is located just north of LaRue on State Road 5. I have the company controller here as well, Kevin Ousley, who I know a number of you may know already. A little bit of background before I get into the request. Probably about a year ago, Red Star Contract Manufacturing was acquired by Wishbone Medical, which is a company headquartered in Warsaw that makes medical devices, implants for the pediatric market. So implants for kids, broken bones and stuff like that. That company has locations as well as Warsaw in both Plymouth, Indiana, now LaRue, Indiana, and also a facility in Turkey in the Eastern Mediterranean. So the company is considering where to invest its dollars and to grow. We're lucky in that the operation in LaRue is top of the list just because of the quality of folks there. Scott Worsler, the owner, I know. Kevin Ousley, now the controller of Wishbone, as well as Red Star Manufacturing, has a great deal of confidence in their abilities to expand the business and are looking at expanding in LaRue. The state of Indiana has also been involved and is proposing offering incentives in excess of $200,000 for this project as well. But one of their considerations is the support of the local government for that support. I again, as typical, did a write-up explaining the amount of investment, the number of jobs being hired, give you a sense of the wages that are being paid. All of that, as you can see, came out very good on the numbers. But I think probably over and above all of that is just the opportunity that this presents for the western part of the US 30 corridor and possibility for additional expansion in that area in the future. as well as potential efforts for redevelopment in the Larville area.
Is that right?
One more thing I'd add, Scott Wursler has just been very, very engaged in terms of helping with training initiatives in the Whitco school system, and does a lot in terms of not only bringing in students as interns, but also advising the school on skilled trades and other things. Recently elected to the school board down there. So I think not only, I think this is one of those, certainly one of those projects where it just hits on all of the notes. I mean, it's good just all the way around, and I think well worth the investment of the county in potential future tax dollars to help support all of these efforts. I guess that's all I've got to say. Any questions of me? Or I suppose, if not me, Mr. Oosley, the controller of the company.
I have a resolution number.
The real property will be 2019-13 and the personal property -14. Any questions?
I don't like question, they kind of grown in place, are a pretty nice addition to our economy, job creation.
I know Councilman Barrett has a question that he would like to ask.
My question is always the same on it. In your hiring process of it, are you veteran friendly with your hiring process?
We're very veteran friendly. Our engineer for validations is served in the military. Our control documents manager, she's served in the military. We have a support from Tony Usley from Wishbone. He served in the military, and Nick Dieter, the CEO, ex-Marine.
Thank you.
If there is such a thing as an ex-Marine.
Once a Marine,
Once a Marine, always a Marine.
We actually celebrate Veterans Day.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Thank you for your service.
I want to thank you for everything you do for Larwell, because a small town like that really needs, some industry in it, and so that's great to have you.
I appreciate that very much. I appreciate the past support that we've done from the county and the town.
How would council like to proceed?
I move we approve both resolutions, tonight 13 and 14.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll go to the vote to pass resolution 2019-13 for real property and 2019-14 for personal property. All those in favor, please respond by raising your right hand. And those opposed, the same. Let it be shown it was passed unanimously with all members present.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Scott Wagner, please.
I must apologize. Our WIC coordinator, Sarah Tinkle, her schedule changed since I had made the appointment to the council. She is receiving training this month, so she'll be back hopefully in November to a council meeting where I can introduce her to you. The other item was about the levy we had talked about 2 months ago, and Jenna has some more information on that for you.
Sorry, just a second.
That's fine.
Talking about the tax levy, is that what you said? Okay. So, when we discussed it, we were worried about, being able to collect enough money to fund the health department budget, but with talking to the LGF, you do have enough of operating balance, and I think the $700,000 is going towards your levy for this year, so it's more than enough and sufficient
Right.
to fund.
So we should be good for the
So,
next couple of years at least.
yes, correct.
So So I had asked to talk to Jenna about it a couple months ago and brought it back to you, so just want to let you know. Shouldn't have to do anything right now.
Good, thank you. Any questions of Scott? Thank you. Amy Biggs, please.
Gentlemen, how are you?
Good morning.
I come before council this morning requesting an out-of-series transfer in the amount of $2,830. This amount is requested to be transferred from my equipment line, also to a secondary equipment line for the purchase of a vehicle. The purchase of this vehicle will allow us to be able to tow the command trailer that we currently have, and we do not have a vehicle that's suitable to be able to tow that. This was approved in the 2019 budget, and we went through the process of seeking vendors from 3 different vendors. We sought requests for quote from a Dodge dealership, from the local Ford dealership, and from Carlee Chevrolet. In looking at the specifications that were provided by each one of those vendors, the vendor that met our specification the best for the cost of the price was Carlee Chevrolet. They did provide us with their commercial pricing that they give to government agencies. That is not a retail market price for the vehicle. We can take possession yet this year, which satisfies the budget request that we have for 2019. So what I'm seeking from you is the request to be able to transfer that $2,830. We've consulted with the auditor, and those funds are available and readily able to be transferred with your permission. We also spoke with the commissioners yesterday, requesting a due pass on our request to make this purchase. I'll let Commissioner
And the
Amber.
commissioners gave a favorable pass to the council today.
What is the difference between what we approved in the budget and the 2,000, what's the 200, how did you come up short $2,830?
That's an excellent question, because I did not expect that either. When we had received requests for quotes previously for the 2019 budget, which we received those in 2018, the inventory cost for that vehicle had exceeded expectations, and they no longer had a vehicle available for that price. We discussed that with each one of them, said we have a quote, $28,000 to be exact, we had estimated high for that vehicle cost. Evidently, production for that vehicle occurs in January and February months, and then after that is exceeded, they no longer produce that same vehicle. That was not conveyed to us by any of the 3 vendors that we had sought requests for quotes from. So that was.
So you would be coming to us with the same request if you had made it in February or March to try to purchase the vehicle?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
What size is it, Amy?
It's a 2500 series, 4x4 available with just an extended cab, but the 5.5-foot bed, which makes it more suitable to haul that. We have our trailers 24 foot long. We did consider a long bed, but just the turning radius on that alone with a 24-foot trailer, I think is going to be challenging. So this
Gas or diesel?
It is gas.
Yes.
Is it 2,500 big enough?
It is, sir.
Okay.
Yeah. We checked the manufacturer specifications. We did speak
Okay.
to each one of them to let them know what our intent and purpose of the use of the vehicle was, and that was the recommendation.
Okay.
I make a motion that we approve the request to transfer $2,830.
I'll second. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll go to the vote. All those in favor, please respond by raising your right hand. And those opposed, the same. And let it be shown it was passed unanimously with all board members present.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Sheriff Gatton, please.
You want to start with the request, the additionals?
Yep, that would be fine.
Okay, so I'm coming before you for one. The first request would be for the continued education fund and training.
As you can see, it's a perpetual account requesting $5,000. We get deposit approximately $300 to $500 per month into the fund, depending on how much is collected. We get $4 per ticket written to go towards education.
When it says here in the paragraph, Mark, it says, "We respectfully request an appropriation for the balance as of 8/13/19 of $3,237.33 and future deposits." Does that "and future deposits" mean anything forward through the rest of the year, or just up to the date of when you are asking for this particular one?
Now, we would want to request the future deposits up to that $5,000.
Okay, and is this something that you come to us periodically through the year, or is this just a housekeeping detail for the end of the year?
We haven't came, I don't believe, for training before. We're just out of training money this year. We just can't move the money without your approval.
Yeah, this is
Right, and I'm,
moving within this.
yeah, and I guess what my question is that you're asking to move the 32, 37, 33 and future deposits, but do you come to us when you get those further deposits, or are you just asking us now to approve anything that comes into that account into this account up to the 5,000?
I don't know if we can, Jana? I don't know if we can get that way. Up to 5,000 is what I was hoping for this year, to try to finish out the year.
Okay, so if we approve the 32, 37, 33 at this point, and more money comes in, then you just come back to us and ask us to move that money?
Well, I'm asking you to let us have the money up to the $5,000, to make $5,000 for the year.
Yeah.
But only available as it's received.
As it's received.
So can we do approval on unreceived money? It is 2501.37001.
So Jody, you're estimating that you'll receive that through the end of the year.
It's just an estimation. I called you and asked you if
Right,
we should do the
yes.
exact
Yeah.
figure or kind of guess what it would be for the rest of the year. You suggested doing for the rest of the year.
Right. Yes, and that's fine because we normally get that revenue anyway.
So do we know is it easy to know what the balance is as of today?
And that doesn't mean that's what we would spend either. It just would be available if the money was there.
Yeah, the balance is $2,685.43.
In the training fund, or in the fund that this money's going to come out of?
And the 2501, the training fund, as of today.
He's just trying to avoid coming back again.
Okay.
Well, I don't, yeah. So it would be council's decision on whether they want to transfer the amount of money that's there and available now, or whether you want to just allow the transfer of up to $5,000 in unreceived money.
I don't have no problem with that. He's got it coming for, they get that from the tickets they write, and up to 5,000, and then he won't be back.
Am I stating that correctly, Mark? Is that what you're asking, is up to $5,000 on future monies that you would receive that you have not received yet?
Correct.
The only money we transfer is what comes in, correct?
Right.
What's currently
So
there,
if only $4,000 comes in, $4,000 is what's transferred.
They'll never spend more than what's actually in the fund.
So that's what we want to do.
Did you make a motion?
Yeah, that's a motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the additional appropriation resolution as explained in the paragraph that you all have a copy of. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll go to the vote. All those in favor, please respond by raising your right hand. And those opposed, the same, and let it be shown it was passed unanimously with all board members present.
Okay, my second request is to have some money returned that was from a Department of Justice grant for bulletproof vests. We bought 3 new vests that covered 50% of the amount spent. I'm requesting $1,950 be appropriated to the sheriff's uniform line item.
And that's money that came back into the county general?
Yeah, it's been
Mark?
deposited, yeah, received and deposited in the county general.
Mark, when did you decide to do this? I have no paperwork on it.
On this,
I don't either.
this was sent in
That's my fault.
a long time ago.
Thor has it, so. I was on vacation
Well,
last week.
I just got it.
Right, I was on
Right.
vacation last
Yeah.
week, so I make mistakes, I'm human too, so.
August 22nd, Kim.
So we can, as a body, you guys can, we can certainly choose to put any kind of thought and process into this and put it off for the next month's meeting, or we can have a little workshop here and talk about the dynamics of it and what it actually means and move forward with the motion. Essentially, they bought three vests
3 vests.
for $1,300 apiece, and that money, of course, had to be spent out of the sheriff's available funds, and he spent it, and then there's a, like, as he said, there's a Justice Department grant that he was given 50% back for purchasing those, and that is a grant that takes place after the fact that you purchase it. They don't give you the money up front. So when he made that purchase, then they sent the money back to him, which that money automatically comes into the county general, not to his account. So that money has come into the general account, and he's asking that that money be put back in his account for equipment, for other needs for this year. And how is your line item on that? How is your balance on that line item right now, Mark?
Negative $681.45.
So that's where we're at, and I would ask council how would you like to proceed?
What's the figures on it that we're gonna be placing back in?
It would be $1,950. And Jenna, can you confirm that money has come into the county general?
Yes.
And that money was from a grant
Yes.
that went into general, needs to go back to him.
Yep. And it wouldn't have came to us had he not
Okay.
put the money out to buy the vests.
I make a motion to make the transfer as described.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll go to the vote. All those in favor, please respond by raising your right hand, and those opposed the same, and it is passed unanimously with all board members present.
Thank you. Do you want me to go on to the next, or do you have other things on the agenda before I go to that?
No, I think you can move right along.
Okay. I know you guys are gonna talk later about raises or where you're gonna take people, but WIS, during their study, I had talked with them, they missed the matron's statute that she gets paid the same as the lowest ranked deputy. So on their study, they show the matron, if you would go to the external midpoint salary, show her as a 0, when according to statute, she would need $1,331 to make the same as a deputy.
Got that somewhere.
What is your rank structure at the sheriff's department, and how does she fall into that, Mark?
She falls in as a regular employee of the department on the deputy side as a deputy off probation.
So she reports to who, and who reports to her?
She reports to me, and her staff reports to her in the kitchen.
Okay. And is she the only matron that you have?
Yes.
Do you have assistant matrons?
No, we go right into what they're called as, I think, classified as head cook and cook, Carla, is that?
Do you have plans to add assistant matrons?
No, sir.
Do you see a need for an assistant matron?
Not at this time, no.
Okay. I would share with you that I did vet this through WIS after receiving it, and they sent me some information that I would like to share with you, and I think that we need on our end probably to move this forward to legal, to look at it and come up with a recommendation. So I would be more than happy to provide you with this information, and along with then us having it run through legal to see where our responsibilities are. I do not believe, I know Jana's going to correct me when I say the wrong thing here, but I do not believe that this would be tied directly into the budget because she's not an elected position, so it could be a change that could happen at any time, and it would not have to be before we approve or finalize the budget today. Am I correct? So I think we've got some time here. If I would, that's my thinking. I'm talking here, and I would look for guidance on how council would like to move forward with this, but that's what I would like to see done.
So you'd like to see Attorney Shipman look at the ordinance, the state ordinance?
Yep, and evaluate that.
We're doing it all properly.
Evaluate that along with the information that we receive from WIS, make sure they get that information, yes.
I'm good with that.
You gonna email that to me, or?
I've got a copy right here if you like. Actually, I printed it out. This isn't really anything here from WIS. This is what they provided to me as far as what we should look at as far as moving forward. So that's the reason I want to get that evaluated now, because I just got that this morning.
All right.
Okay.
Sheena had that on.
Okay, I'm not sure who to call on, but we are ready for the elected officials' wage proposal, please. I don't have a name, so.
You guys gonna sit out there? Okay. All right, so as most of you know, we are here today to request that us 5 elected officials be treated the same as department heads and be considered a Pat 1 for the WIS report, and our chief deputies be treated as a Pat 3 for the WIS report. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Kim.
Morning.
I do have something additional I want to hand out to each one of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What I have attached here is from an article that was from back in 2017, when the discussion was taking place as far as the salary of the HR coordinator, which did not pass at the time. It was a concern that was stated over the fact that if the HR coordinator's salary was approved at that time, that salary would supersede some of the department heads within the county. The concern to that was expressed, and as far as what may happen in the event that that happened with department heads or possibly elected officials coming forward on their own salaries. With what has been done with the analysis, and no disrespect to the analysis at all, I think what has been done here has been a wonderful thing for the county. But what has happened here with what is currently been approved, that is, and if you have further discussion later on as far as whether that's going to be changed or not from the external midpoint recommendation. But as far as the positions that are in the Pat 2 category, all of those positions exceed these 5 elected official salaries. And that's the focus that we've brought as far as comparing to internally rather than externally for department heads or elected officials, I shall say, from other counties that were used. And then again, I've copied page 8 and 9 out of the analysis and kind of highlighted there from 1 to 5 and then the conclusion that was provided for the internal pay equity. This is a pay relationship among like classified jobs in the organization. And then it goes on to talk about the external pay equity.
You said internal, but when you started to read that, but you meant external?
Well, I have internal pay, for number 1, I have highlighted.
Okay, I'm with you.
Internal
Yep.
pay equity. So that, as far as the 5 chief deputies within these elected offices and how their responsibilities compare, as Janice stated, to the PAT 3 positions, being administrative office positions and the non-elected offices, and there again, as far as the elected officials in these 5 offices anyway, being compared within to other department heads within the county. Anybody have any questions for me?
I guess not.
Yes, not? Okay, thank you.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
I had the pleasure, honor, of going down to the Association of Indiana Counties last week and met with all of the recorders and elected officials there. One of the people that we talked to was Irwin. And I was surprised at his response to us because when we questioned him on how my chief deputy could make $1.14 less than what the external pay for a part-time person makes, you know, did he feel that that was equal pay for equal work? His answer to me is that you can't take care of the Indians without taking care of the chiefs. He stated that he could tell you externally for all the other jobs, not elected officials, because we're different, which we already have found out, what classification of raise or money they should have, but it was up to the council to decide if you were going to make that equal for the elected officials. You know, to put us far below what others within the county are making when we're doing the same type of job was your responsibility to take care of. I was very amazed at his thinking on that, and I asked him, did you tell the council that when you presented this report? He stated he did. I don't know whether he did in those terms. I don't know that he pointed out what a discrepancy there is between the elected officials and the other county employees. I just hope that you take that into consideration when you look at this, because part of our job as an elected official is to try to find someone to fill that position when we are done. You've made it very hard, if you change to what you're going to, for us to find someone with the knowledge of county government to step in and fill either the elected official's job or the chief deputy. Please think about the consequences in the future as you make your decision. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm struggling with the back issue. I'm not even going to sit down, I apologize, but anyway, what I'm here to talk about is equal pay. And as you can see, and you guys all know, that if you look at PAT 1 and PAT 2, all the responsibilities that a PAT 1 does and all the responsibilities a PAT 2 does, we're a PAT 1. We do all those responsibilities, and I just want to I respectfully ask you guys if you can consider us to be in the same equal pay as them. And, I mean, we've already talked to you about many things, but that's one thing I wanted to request.
What would be the percent of pay for us to take you where you're asking us to? Percent of increase?
I did not run the numbers. Jana, do you know what the percent was?
I don't know what the percent.
What the percent is. We just looked at what their actual base was. I don't have that paper in front of me.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
What do we need to pay to attract and retain quality employees? That question is on page 9 of this compensation analysis summary report. The answer is on page 10. Equal pay for equal wage. Elected officials and department heads essentially have the same job description. Elected officials manage the workload in their office. We manage the personnel. We train. We hire. We fire. We create budgets. We adhere to those budgets. We make difficult decisions. And we stay until the job is done. We have no supervisors. Elected officials are the department heads for our offices. We are asking that the 5 elected officials here today be compensated as Pat 1s. You have a question about the education requirements. Oh, you may have a question about the education requirements of a Pat 1. Some companies waiver that for experience. Experience equals knowledge. We are going to lose experienced quality candidates to our own organization if this wage inequality isn't fixed. Why become an elected official with all the headaches of being a department head and the expense and hassle of campaigning when I can have a job right down the hall as an office administrator for the same salary, which guarantees me a go-home time at 4:30 every evening? The ordinance that was passed 2 months ago for the salary schedule and compensation policies says classifications were compared to salaries and wages to assure there is pay equality among all positions. It doesn't say except elected officials. So again, I ask, what do we need to pay to attract and retain quality elected officials? The answer is, again, right here. Equal pay for equal work within our own organization. Is there any questions I can answer?
Darrell, do you know what the difference in pay percentage-wise would be for the position of where you're being paid now and what you'd like to be paid?
Not percentage. We were asked to run numbers, and we did. We have a total for the 5 of us to be brought up to the Pat 1, and then we have a separate total for the chief deputies to be brought up to a Pat 3.
Your position would be a 32% raise. Just didn't know if you had done those numbers on that.
Nope. Anything else for me?
Any questions? Nope. Thank you.
And just the last thing that I will close with is you guys all received this, so we've showed how, if you guys decide to go with this, that how it could be funded and still to give everyone a raise. So, if you have any questions.
Any questions of Jana?
We've never had a basis for establishing salaries for elected people. We just took last year's and adjusted it if we wanted to give a raise. We've never had a shot to go to. And I don't know that we want one, but that's what they're asking for, that we classify them as if they're Pat 1, if I understand it right.
No. Elected officials can't be classified in the PAT system. So you're saying that it's the same work, so with the same pay, you're not asking to be in the system?
No.
Okay.
And I'm not so sure, I wasn't here, Bill. You were and may have recollection of it, but I think probably at some point when we had WIS evaluate and put a system in place 17, 18 years ago, I'm sure they used some sort of a standard at that point. So I don't think that we don't ever, I don't think it would be fair to say it hasn't ever been done.
I don't recall how they handled that.
Yeah.
But we've never really had a goal exactly. It's just always been, when we give a raise to everybody, we gave that raise to the elected official too, and that's how they got where they were. But I think one of the things that we need to probably discuss is whether we're going to actually approve the budget of using what we already voted on to go into the external, what, midpoint, is that what we did?
Well, you're exactly right, that would be the next and last item on our agenda today would be to approve the budget.
Yeah, but they kind of run together. And I have a little problem with that. I personally think that the financial obligations that the county is going to be looking for in the next couple of years, I think we need to think a little bit of how much money we're spending. With this, to go to what we're talking about, I think is about $450,000. That does not include PERF or Social Security, does it? So we're talking maybe possibly another $100,000.
Well, not all that comes out of county general though, either.
No, but I'm thinking about the money that we have, that when if the state says we have to do something about the 11 jailers that we're short, if they force us into that. I think the commissioners have got something going on how we're going to handle the overcrowded jail, and we have no idea how much that's going to cost. It's probably too late, but I would have preferred to have gone to the internal after thinking about what we did. I was more in favor of the internal comparison than the external, because that's who we're trying to keep everybody similar somewhat. So that's just my thoughts on it.
I appreciate that.
I hate to sit here and have us take a couple of minutes to read quietly, but we just received a report from WIS that pertains to this, and we haven't had a chance to review it. So if we could take a few minutes just to each of us look at it individually, I think that'd be appropriate.
When we got budgets, we kind of got it on the line item. But we do the county 2019 budget and the solid waste budget all in one stroke or separate.
I don't separate.
And you have the paperwork for that.
I don't, because I didn't know what was gonna happen today. So I'll have to, whatever you guys decide, I'll create the ordinances, and you guys will have to come in and sign them.
So it'll be something you'll be able to do.
Right now,
While
no,
we
because
wait.
if I have to change numbers, it's gonna take me a day or so.
Okay.
So, but you guys, yeah, and I have to have it in the state 5 days after it's adopted. So you guys have to come in and sign it for me, so I can
So,
get
but
these.
we can, that doesn't have to be a meeting, that can all be on an
Oh, yeah,
individual
so you can
basis.
just come in and sign it, yep, as you can.
How do you remember doing that?
Where we're at right now.
Yes, for external mid only, so that would be the difference.
Oh, from the county general. Yeah,
Yeah,
I got you. Yep.
Because they were saying something about.
And that's with, that's taken into consideration the additional taxes that will go along with the raises and the benefits. I
No,
guess.
that's just wages.
That's just wages. everybody had a chance to review, we will now move back into business. Is there anything to be brought forward by council?
One quick question on it. I know that Personnel Committee met on it. Was there any comments, thoughts, ideas that come out of the Personnel Committee meeting in reference to this?
We processed a lot of the same information and made a determination that it was probably appropriate, and I believe Councilman Wheeler spearheaded that it was appropriate that it come before the entire council. So as far as us having anything to make an approval on or suggestions, I would say no. It was just directed this direction so everybody would have a chance to, or not a chance, but have the ability to come to a conclusion on the issue.
There's probably 4 things I'd just highlight, make sure we all understand it the same. Under item 1, elected officials are not to be classified with the PAT job category. We all agree that that's true. But then the last page, last paragraph on that page, the factor evaluation system isn't designed or intended to certain elected officials within the job categories. And if we go to the top of the next page, that is essentially because the expectations are set by state statute for the elected officials as opposed to job descriptions. And then the last line of the second paragraph, WIS essentially says most councils view elected officials as separate and isolated with salaries set based upon the pay philosophy of each individual council. So, and then the last thing that I would note and then ask a question about, is the last paragraph on page 2. This recommendation preserves the internal rank structure within the elected officials and is intended to prevent pay compression between the chief deputies and subordinate office positions the chief deputy supervisors that are in the COMAT job category. My question would be, how close are the highest COMATs paid to the lowest chief deputy? Because if the responsibility here is to keep those from being compressed and similar, that's just something I feel like we need to be aware of. And I don't have the paperwork in front of me with the COMAT numbers, just to ensure myself that COMATs are paid less than chief deputies. So it's just a question.
Does council have anything to bring forward? Hearing nothing, we'll move along to the next item on the agenda. It should be the adoption of the Whitley County 2019 budget and the solid waste budget. We will address each one separately. So we will start with the adoption for the Whitley County 2019 budget. I'm sorry. I'm reading what you printed. It would be the 2020 budget that we were looking to adopt.
The only comment I have to make is I would have been happier if we would have gone to the internal figures rather than the external. But we've already voted on it. Whether we can turn that down and do it over again, I don't know. I don't know how any of the rest of me feel about it.
Any other discussion, anything anybody else wants to add before I ask for a motion to adopt the 2020 budget?
So if we go to adopt the budget now, we're pretty much done discussing the 5 elected officials, or is that another separate?
It would be the end of it for this year. Once the elected officials, once the budget has been set for them, it cannot be changed, their salary cannot be raised or lowered.
Okay. Anybody have any? Okay, this is my first year, okay? I stepped into this and wanting to do this job, and I still want to do this job. But as for me as a person, as an elected official as you are, I cannot sit here and justify myself to give somebody a 27 to 30% increase raise in 1 year right now. I just can't do that. I don't know how the rest of them feel, but the other job I had, I was a boss, I was in charge of raises, everything else. Down deep inside, I cannot do that. To you 5 elected officials, it's not going to happen for me today. I don't know how everybody else feels in here, but I'm going to let you know where I stand on this. I'm not saying next year. We need to really sit down and think about this and see where we're at. But as far as me giving you an okay right now, that's not going to happen for me. I just can't do that. And maybe I'm not looking at all the way around, but all the figures you gave me, everything out here, I see it, I know where we're at and I know where we're going, but I just can't justify doing that. And that's where I stand.
Are we still looking at the 3% raise, or the 3% raise on your, that hasn't been voted on,
No.
the increase?
No, there's been no talk of that increase. That was simply what was advertised to give us the room if we were going to do anything moving forward, because it was a deadline that Jana had to advertise.
So before we approve the budget, we gotta figure that out.
If that's an issue to be brought forward before we approve the budget, yes, it would need to be done before then.
I haven't done it.
Okay?
I feel that that's too much. And I kinda agree with Tom a little bit.
The 3%, we have not approved a 3%
No, I
increase.
know, but that's what we've advertised, 3%.
That's what we've advertised as our maximum amount that we could.
And I'm stating right now that I don't agree with the 3%.
Okay.
I think we gotta watch what we do. I think the economy's not the best right now. It's not gonna be the best. I think we're gonna hit a slowdown period. And I also agree with Bill a little bit. We've got other things that we're gonna have to pay with, as far as the sheriff's department, and that's gonna be coming up. I think what we do here, if we would go along with what the 5 officials want us to do, I feel that that's cutting us too close. I just think that I've been on here for quite a few years, and I've been here when it was pretty meek, where we didn't have money to do anything. And some of you have been elected officials and you didn't even get a raise. And if we don't watch it, that's gonna happen again. So, I can't support changing what we've already voted on. I think that would make us look bad. I don't think that I can approve the 3% either. I stand with it.
Could we do this in 2 years?
I'm sorry?
Would it be worth thinking about doing it over a course of 2 years instead of 1?
Well, we're kind of past that unless you would want to rescind what we've already done. I mean,
We
but
can
go
do
ahead.
that.
Yep, we can.
Putting forth some ideas.
Don, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I just thought maybe you might want a commissioner's viewpoint on this, okay?
Sure, absolutely.
You talked about it. And we never talked about the elected officials, so I don't have anything there. I'm talking about the budget. Our recommendation for 2020 would be a 3% raise. And if you want to institute go into the mid-range, we'd ask that you do it over a 3-year period of time and not in 1 year. Because that amount of money when we look at the number of jailers and deputies we need, we're not sure it's gonna be there if we do it all at one time. So that's from the commissioners.
And we have already adopted the external midpoint at last month's meeting. The only thing that we had not made the final decision on was that money that was left on the 3% advertised, whether we were going to do anything with it, and then, of course, with these other requests that had been brought to us, so I appreciate that.
But you haven't adopted the budget.
We have not adopted the budget, that's where we're at.
So it's still in flux.
Yes,
You
it could be.
can't raise it, but you can lower it.
Yep.
So what you're saying, when you want us to adopt the midpoint, do it in 2 years, so there's a little extra money this year instead of throwing it all in 1 year? Is that what
Yeah,
you're saying?
I think we were hoping 2 to 3 years adoption and not just adopt it in 2020.
So we have a little cushion to fall back on if we need more jailers or whatever comes up.
We should always try to operate with an amount of money to start in the new year with, for things that come up you haven't budgeted, which we have now. That's where this money would come from.
Well, and if you've ever attended the meetings with the State Board of Accounts on their recommendations and where we need to be.
Yeah, but they're not trustworthy, to be serious. But years and years ago, we had $1 million carry over. State Board of Accounts made that cut down to nothing. So we budgeted a zero budget. Then gradually they let us come back again. We got up around 250,000. Now we're back up on $1 million, and you get, who knows when they'll set that off.
Well, Councilman Barrett and myself sat down with the State Board of Accounts, was it last year or the year before?
2 years ago.
2 years ago, and their recommendation to us at that time is that we should have operating capital, and that was 2 years ago, of at least in the $800,000 to $1 million range, and at that time, we had about $200,000 or $220,000 that we had for operating expenses in county general for that year. And I think with the economy and the growth, the additional tax base and the evaluations that we have gotten over the last 2 years, that has grown back to the point to where even with what we have looked at doing and have already essentially voted on as a council, we still have a projected operating balance in the county general of about $1 million. It's over $1 million. So we're in good, healthy shape for where the economy is right now. So that's, and that's a very valid point where it's at right now. And when you make the comment that we can't trust the State Board of Accounts, maybe you've had a bad experience or a particular issue with them, but I think we absolutely need to be able to trust the State Board of Accounts and go by their recommendations and what they tell us.
I'll probably use bad English for that, but they're trustworthy, but they are changeable. They can come in and have.
Yep.
Come in and say you have to reduce your budget to get rid of that money. We had the same thing, I think, with the assessor's office. They told us to get rid of some money, which is costing us a problem now, I think. A couple of years ago, they come back and said we had to reduce that budget.
Yeah, thank you.
All I'm saying is you can't so totally depend on having that $1 million every year.
No, but like I said, 2 years ago when Councilman Barrett and myself sat on that meeting, it was about $220,000. And believe me, I have done nothing over the last 2 years to facilitate the extra $800,000 to $900,000. It's just been the fact that the economy's good and we've grown, and now we have that money where they're saying that we should be at. And you guys know as well as I do that something's going to happen with the maintenance department, that something's going to need to be fixed on one of our buildings, and that's going to come right out of county general over the course of this next year when that occurs. And you know, a lot of those issues are exactly why they recommend us having that money in there. I don't think it's being irresponsible to invest the amount of money that we are talking about investing in our most valuable resource, our county employees, when we have essentially a healthy economy and a healthy general budget right now. So we have that money available. We are not going backwards or borrowing money to invest the $450,000 into bringing everybody to the external midpoint, which is the recommendation of WIS that we paid for when essentially we decided to go to an outside independent agency to make those evaluations. So I think that we are being very responsible, not only to the employees, but to the taxpayers. And that is ultimately who we are responsible to, are the taxpayers and the decisions that we make up here on how we're going to spend their money.
Well, we do have a responsibility to our employees.
You're exactly right, and I think that we have covered those bases as far as having the positions evaluated and then making that commitment to move forward to that external midpoint to get everybody on a level playing field as far as what their positions should be paid. And we're making a commitment to all of our employees that we value their work and their positions and their contributions to making the county work the way it does, and to have good services, have great services from all our departments.
I do think we need to consider the fact that whether we want to do it in 1 year or 2 years or 3 years. In 2 years, it is a no-brainer. You're going to have the same council next year we have this year, unless something happens to one of us.
And we've had those discussions and the points that have been brought forward and considered by everyone present, and the reason that we move forward with voting for it to be done in 1 year period was the fact that this information presented to us at this time is as timely and as relevant as it's ever going to be. You know, next year, that will change. The year after, it will change. So you could factor in then, if you want to do it over the course of 2 years, then start playing with numbers and then adding, well, next year then there would be this percentage of cost of living increase, or maybe the market value on a particular job within the county changes and externally, which would factor a difference in how that would come out. So there would be all kinds of little intricacies that would affect that, but essentially, the information that we've received to move forward, as we've already voted to do, and bring everybody to that external midpoint this year and at this time, is with as fresh and relevant information as we're ever going to pay to get. And we paid to get it. So we can go backwards on that, or we can support the decision and the vote that we have already made, and then we can move forward to then approving the budget. I guess I would ask council at this time what your wishes are.
I already told you what mine are.
Well, I guess I'm looking for a motion.
No, you are.
So do you think we need to go make it a 2 year or just stick with 1 year? Chairman?
I would tell you that I just spent about 3-4 minutes explaining that I think we voted the right thing last time when we voted to bring everybody to the external midpoint in this year's budget. We have the money available to do that because of the economy, and we still have a operating surplus of over $1 million in our county general, and I think this would be the optimum time to do that, not knowing what expenses are going to come up or what next year will look like. This is the time in not only our budget, but in with the economy and the monies that we have available to make that bold step and let all of our county employees know that we appreciate their effort and their contribution to county government, and we need to get everybody to where their recommended external midpoint salaries should be. So yes.
A little bit off to the side, but just from my own understanding, the surplus that we carry, if in fact our tax revenues were to be down in a few years, can some of that surplus be used in the budget or not?
How much of our $1 million can be carried over to the next year? I mean, that's money that just always carries in the county general, right? If we would have a tremendous year where nothing would go wrong, and we wouldn't have to spend any of that money, it would still be available to us for the next year then.
Yes, and that money is like.
Nothing ever happens to it.
That's in your cash.
Yep.
Okay, so your operating balance, it would go up.
So it just remains available. We couldn't budget for part of that to be spent.
You could with an
We could.
additional appropriation.
Okay.
If something came up, that's what the additional appropriation
But
is.
in the annual budget, it wouldn't be there to be an additional appropriation from that. Okay.
That's where, every time something comes up, that an additional appropriation is requested, it comes out of that money. And that's why you can't budget every dollar that you have, because there are going to be things that come up.
Got it. Thank you.
The State Board of Accounts does determine how much of that we can carry over. They can.
They don't determine
Yeah.
that. When you guys tell me what to advertise, I do a worksheet and it shows everything, I put everything in.
I know.
And it does a worksheet that shows what it will be. They don't determine that. You
They-
guys do by adopting what budget you adopt.
But they've done it before.
As far as, since I've been on there, no, they've never decided what our operating balance was. They just give recommendations and help us through the budget and say, okay, maybe, yeah, you need to cut
Well,
here,
you-
or,
Then you just say that when you two went to them, I told you it should be 800,000.
2 years ago, when John and I sat with the State Board of Accounts, I think you were there also, their recommendation was that we have an operating capital in our budget available to us of $800,000. And at that time, after we had made all our, planned the budget, and that was after the budget, or right before the budget was finalized, we had about $220,000, and they told us that we needed to work on getting a larger operating reserve. And that's what, like I said, I've not done that. I could take credit for it, but I think there's too many people who know better. So the healthy economy and the fact that the tax base has went up and the property values have went up, that is what has increased it. And I think that, I don't know if we sat down and had the same meeting with them right now, that they would say 800,000, or would they say 2 million? I don't know, but I think that we've done enough to increase that margin, or we've been fortunate enough to increase that margin to where now we're looking at over $1 million of reserve in the general fund for emergencies, unplanned issues.
I just want to make sure that we're fair to the taxpayers and our employees.
And it's a fine line, and we all are responsible to our constituents and to answer those questions to them, and I appreciate you having those feelings.
To both, to the employees, everybody, we have a responsibility. It's kind of difficult to get that where it exactly should be.
We are going to have to approve some sort of a budget today, so at this point, I guess I will call for a motion, or I will call for changes that you would want to make to our budget in order to make it passable by this group.
I thought we had till October 22nd to actually adopt it.
unless you want to have extra meetings. I've advertised it, and we had the public hearing.
I know what you advertise, put that in what the state requires.
I have to have it into the state by November 1st, so we would have to redo and go through the entire process again.
Right. I'm not saying to do that, I'm just pointing out that that is a possibility.
We've worked on the budget, we've put the pieces into place, we've made the decision on how to go forward with the information that we received from WIS. Essentially, the pieces are put into place. We're looking for either major changes and going back through and redoing our budget process, or we're looking for a motion to approve the budget for 2020.
To get things off kilter, I'll make a motion to accept the budget that we approved for 2020.
I have a motion to pass the budget that we have worked on and put into place for 2020.
That's with 3%? I need,
No, there's nothing,
That's what was, I just want to specify. I need it specified. So just the external
Get
mid and
3% in there,
that's
John?
The external midpoint is what we have passed. Yes,
it. Just that. Okay.
yes.
Wait, what, the 3%? Is that what you said, John?
Yes.
So your motion is to approve the 2020 budget with bringing the employees up to what we've approved with the external midpoint?
Yes.
And the additional 3% that we advertised at then has nothing, is taken out of this, it has nothing to do with this budget.
Correct.
I have a motion.
I'll second.
And it has nothing to do with it because we didn't approve it last month.
Right.
Okay.
So I have a motion and a second. Now I'll call for further discussion. We're past that. Is there anything that you want to ask? Do you have questions as far as your understanding of what we're passing on the budget?
You're just passing the external midpoint.
With no other increases.
So we struck, the 3% has been striked. It would just be the external midpoint.
I have a motion and a second. I'll call again for further discussion. Hearing none, we'll go to the vote. All those in favor of adopting the 2020 budget, please respond by raising your right hand. And those opposed, the same. Let it be shown that it was adopted unanimously with all board members present. We will now move on to the solid waste budget. As presented and reviewed by us earlier, this would be the time and the last available date to approve that. So I would call for a motion on the solid waste budget, please.
I move that we approve the 2020 solid waste budget.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll go to the vote. All those in favor of approving the solid waste budget, please respond by raising your right hand. And those opposed, the same. Let it be shown it was passed unanimously with all board members present. Meeting schedule for next year, we put that off from last month's meeting with the mindset that we would have some discussions amongst ourselves and see if we wanted to move ahead as we have had the meetings in the past, or were there any suggestions as how we might streamline that or make that more convenient for the public to be involved, or are we happy with where it's at? So I would look for guidance on that issue at this time.
I feel that I'm content where it's at now. Just
So
for the
am I.
simple fact that if we want to talk to one of the heads of the office or personnel, that they're already here during the day.
Janet, do you have for us what that meeting schedule was? I did not save that. Or can we just make an approval on as, the same as we have been doing? And that would be something that you could, is that all you need?
The same as I presented the last meeting, if you want to do it that way.
You need the dates.
Do you have it right there?
Have it here, yes, and
Well, if you want to pass that around here, I will use that to, if you want to stop and look at that, Kim, is that your motion?
Yes, it is.
I do have a motion. I'm sorry if I missed the second.
Second.
I have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll go to the vote. All those in favor of approving the 2020 meeting schedule as presented here in front of me on the recommendation or the motion by Councilman Wheeler, please respond by raising your right hand. And those opposed, the same, and let it be shown it was passed unanimously with all board members present. Commissioners' report, please.
Yes, I'll make it short and sweet, how's that? Brandon Forster appeared before us, and we opened bids for 2 new highway trucks. The bids were taken under advisement, so Brandon will be back with us at the October 21st meeting to tell us how it went. But honestly, his only decision is whether to accept the bid or not to accept the bid. We had 1 bid for chassis and 1 bid for the bed, so we'll just have to wait and see on that one. We did listen to Dan Monaco. He's the deputy EMA director. We talked about the truck purchase, which we talked about here. Carlee LaRue, who won't be here today because it really, what she wanted doesn't have a bearing on this group. What Carlee wants to do, Carlee's our health educator. Thank you. She's going to put a vending machine in the basement in our break room with some more healthier foods than what are down there. It cost us nothing for the machine, so it's kind of a break even. Nathan Bilger came before us with a replat, which we took care of. Becky Soloway from Council on Aging was here for her 2020 grant approval, so we took care of that. That's pretty much the short and sweet of it, to be honest with you. Thank you for giving me a minute.
Any questions of Don, please, or of the commissioners? Thank you, Don. Okay, then the minutes from September 4th, council meeting 2019. I would ask, are there any additions or corrections to the minutes as they were presented to you? If not, I would call for a motion on the minutes, please.
I move to approve as presented.
So moved.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll go to the vote. All those in favor, please respond by raising your right hand. And those opposed, the same. Let it be shown as the minutes were passed unanimously with all board members present. Councilman Barrett.
Several of our council members and commissioners received a packet from James Parrish Haddix, DOC number 224112. Recommend that we have our county attorney take a look at it, make sure that all the i's and t's are dotted, and that we don't have to do anything with it.
Yep. And you have received that same packet, Don, and so...
We all get them?
No, I don't think so. I think Councilman Barrett was lucky one.
No, you got mine yesterday.
Oh, you did? I didn't get one.
When we look at it, more than happy.
Mine will probably be in the mail today. Anything else, sir?
I have nothing else.
Councilman Overdeer?
Nothing.
Councilman Comfort?
Nothing.
Councilman Warner?
Nothing.
Councilman Wheeler? Vice Chair Banks? No. Janet? I have nothing. We're adjourned. Thank you.
She was